in light of this, are there any conditions that you believe are purely demonic? And are there multiple ways a person can become afflicted?
There are multiple ways a person can become inflicted. Sin, for want of a better term, wicked, evil things. It's a broad range, a smorgasbord of choice we have to consume forbidden fruit, certainly in this age. And the internet, unfortunately, provides a lot of opportunities for that. So there's a number of ways through, breaking the basic 10 commandments, and just like indulging in pleasure in self to a degree that forms or constitutes wicked behaviour, can invite a demon in. But the other side of it is getting involved in the occult, in witchcraft, that may not always present itself as witchcraft. Typically, and we're told in the Bible that Satan will present himself as an angel of light. So the idea of somebody turning up with a hawk and a fork and a pointed tail and two horns is highly unlikely. There's one particular lady that had been into all sorts of things that she thought was good. She thought she was spreading the light to people and looking at inner issues and dealing with them, but really it was very self-indulgent. And this is the thing, is are we here to serve, or are we just here to seek more and more pleasure and indulgence in self? So really, when people get involved in just themselves, and it's why Jesus talks about being born again, the only thing we're really thinking about is ourselves, even if we dress it up on the face of it to look as if we're actually caring about others. It's always about the heart and the motivation. But a lot of people looking for answers to, is there more than this, to the spiritual realms, can be led into some darker things that on the face of it look like they're okay, but the deeper they get in, I think about Freemasonry as a good example. When you get up to the 22nd degree, it's really quite dark. But to begin with, it looks like a business club or some philanthropic organisation that goes around doing good works. And I don't doubt a lot of the people involved in Freemasonry are in it for that reason. But yet, the spiritual oaths and conditions and commitments that they take on effectively are curses and have a power with them. So, there's a whole range of different ways that you can become afflicted by an evil spirit. They are difficult often to identify as where the gateway is. So the only way we can work is in prayer. What is it that is actually the gateway to this?
Do you think that drugs and things like this could open the door to
Absolutely.
things like this?
Absolutely. I mean, the soul is something that we should have some sort of custodian, some sort of guardianship over. And actually, if we're in a completely detached state through heavy alcohol use or particularly drugs, we can open the doorway. Our resistance, our natural defences come down, and spirits can get involved and then start to control us. But there's other giveaway signs. I mean, we're talking in the last question about signs. I think about an 8-year-old boy that I didn't get involved with in terms of ministry to, but his mother came to me and was very concerned, and she said, "My son's possessed, isn't he?" And I had to say to her, "Well, those are your words, because we're dealing with a minor, they're not mine, but I happen to agree with you." And one of the most scary things about this boy was his mind clearly wasn't that of an 8-year-old. He understood things way beyond his age. He actually scared his teachers and the headmaster at school. The ed psych said that he had clear psychological traits that meant that they thought he could end up becoming some sort of serial killer or terrorist. He was a pretty scary individual, quite violent at times, but he was also able to read people's minds. I remember sitting in one room and he was in the room adjacent to the room I was in, and I was just about to open up another window on my laptop. But I was using, it wasn't mine actually, it was somebody else's computer, and it was Apple, and I wasn't familiar with it. And this voice came in, called in from the room next door, "Well, if you want to open another window, you need to press this button, whatever." I went, "Oh, thank you very much." Wait a minute, how the heck did you know what I was thinking? I was sat there with the screen and my back to him. There was no way he could have understood what I was thinking at that moment. But he did, and he did it to a number of other people. So, gateways, yes, drugs, and the basic releasing of the natural defense that we should have and control over our own minds can open a gateway. The occult is a key area where we get involved in things that may seem to be good, And let me give you another example of this. There was a lady that came to us who worked for British Nuclear Fuels. She was a very intelligent woman, a young woman, attractive woman, but when she turned up, she had what looked like a grey veil over her. Now, I hadn't met her before, and she came up to the chapel, was not able to walk very well, and often there's a lethargy that can come with this as somebody is oppressed. And she sat down and we talked, and all of a sudden she started to sweat profusely, just broke out into this sweat, and we were bringing her towels and all the rest of it. And this was actually the way the Lord was delivering her. In this case, it was like a sovereign deliverance, that we didn't have to actually go through lots of stuff. He just took it off her. But what she'd been involved in, she was desperate after the breakup of a relationship to have another man, and she ended up involved with a group of gentlemen from Ghana that were actually offering various solutions in this area. And this is an intelligent woman, so we can sort of laugh or joke about it, but it's not that impossible for us to imagine how we can get involved in times of need in places that we shouldn't be in, and in processes that we shouldn't be involved in. So she got engaged with them. They ended up giving her potions and things, and in the end she became quite heavily possessed. They were charged through the police with sex trafficking. She was cleared, but actually she was in all kinds of trouble from the spiritual aspect of what she'd been involved in by submitting to the authority of these guys that weren't doing anything good. It looked like it was good, but it wasn't. After her deliverance, and it just literally happened in the chapel in front of us, and she said, I don't know what's happening, but she sweated and sweated and sweated. She came back, and she was a completely different person. And her friends said, where have you been for the last 2 years? And she was very grateful, and she put all of that down to Jesus Christ. Because what I didn't realise was she'd started to research, us having told her that we were Christian. She started to research what the Christian faith was about, what Jesus said and did in forms of deliverance, and she was already in a state of faith before she arrived. Well, that was a very neat deliverance and required very little work on our behalf, but often it can take an awful lot longer than that.